Hello, everyone. Very excited to show you all how to build AIs that can be incorporated into your business using MindStudio. My name is Luis, and as Liz mentioned, I'm a lead product manager here at MindStudio. I'm also, along with Liz, on the founding team here at MindStudio. Um, MindStudio is a venture-backed company. We've raised over $36 million. The company's about 7 years old. And one thing that you'll want to know is that as we begin to build things in MindStudio is that you're not the first people here. There are over 19,000 AI-powered applications that have been deployed using MindStudio. These AI-powered applications span across large enterprises, government entities, small businesses, and solopreneurs, individuals that use AI to enhance their own lives. These AIs span across various types of use cases, including sales, HR, recruiting, marketing, finance, customer service. And for a full list, we recommend that you check out our website. So as we start to talk about building AI-powered applications, we need to first address what an AI-powered application even is. And when you think about AI-powered applications, you can draw a lot of similarities between regular applications that you are used to seeing on your mobile devices and things like that. These AI-powered applications are simply web applications that you can build, and they can be distributed everywhere. They can be shared via a simple link or embedded in websites. They can be tied to the physical world using QR codes or added to your mobile device's home screen. They can all be wrapped inside of an app store wrapper and published to app stores. And then they can also run headless via API and be used as a backend service. And so when we, again, like when we think about these AI applications, you'll see a lot of similarities to regular applications that you're used to seeing. All of these applications tend to have some sort of front-end interface. And in this case, you'll see some screens like onboarding screens and forms that your users fill out, various kinds of menus, and final output screens that show the AI's response and the output of all the work. And similarly, there's some back-end logic that happens inside of these applications. There are various types of workflows and inputs, and you can incorporate data sources and make API calls, run custom functions. And of course, all of these AI-powered applications leverage various kinds of large language models as the base intelligence for processing the information inside these applications. So let's go ahead and quickly take a look at one of these AI applications so that we can see how it works. Here I have a demo application that we built, and this application is called Sales Copilot. It is intended to help sales teams to create sales collaterals and to do role play practice with an AI posing as a potential customer. And then it's also acting as a repository of information so that folks on the sales team can ask it questions and query the knowledge base should they have any questions about the products that they're selling or their company or their brand. So all of these AI applications have a landing page that is fully customizable. All of the customizations include any of the content that you include, colors, things like that. And then when we open up the AI application, we're taken to our main workspace. Now, the first time that you enter into an AI application, you'll be greeted with some onboarding screens that you'll be able to configure. And in this case, we have a welcome screen that demonstrates that welcomes you onto the application. It then asks for some background information about our product. So in this case, We are selling a fictional product named Flow Task that is a product management tool. And we can describe our product. We can include some key features, and all of this is providing contextual information for the AI to be used in generating its responses. We have some value propositions. As you can see, I've sort of filled out this form already, but the first time you enter into this particular AI application, it'll ask you all of these various questions that you will fill out in order to train the AI on the product and services that you are selling. And keep in mind, there are AIs for countless use cases. This is just demonstrating what some onboarding screens might look like inside of an AI that you build. The other thing I forgot to mention before we started diving into the demo is that all of this is going to be recorded. Don't worry about building along with us. Just sit back and watch, and I'm going to show you how we can build an AI application live on this call, and I'm going to show you how all of this works. So heading back into our onboarding screen, we have a bunch of inputs, and once we fill out all these inputs, we're taken to our main workspace. Now, in this case, I have several threads here on the left from the previous times that I've used this application. But the first time opening a new thread, you'll be presented with a menu. And just like a mobile app menu, you'll have several options for various kinds of things that you can do and you can program into these AI applications. So in this case, we can see that it asks us what we'd like to do. And we have three options. We can create some sales collaterals. We can practice, do role play practice for a sales call. And then we can also query our own knowledge base for any questions we might have regarding sales protocols, brand, products, things like that. So let's go ahead and select create sales collaterals. And at this point, we're going to be asked with information about the client that we're speaking with. Now, this is all fictional again, so let's go ahead and fill some of this out. The name of the company we're speaking with is a company named Green Tech Solutions, let's say. And we can describe what the company does. Here I have some text describing the company here. So we have a description here that I'm just going to paste in because we have collected this information beforehand from some of the research that maybe we've done before hopping on the call with this potential client. We can name the representative we're speaking with. So in this case, maybe I'm speaking to someone named Alex Johnson. And they are the director of operations here at Green Tech Solutions. Then we'll ask if they are the final decision maker, and this will this is an important feature about this application because if they're not, the sales collateral might generate something different versus if they are the decision maker. So let's go ahead and say no here. Now, at this point, what is happening is we have a workflow that is running in the background of this AI application. And what it's doing is it's using AI to come up with some potential pain points for our new prospect. And then it's going to be generating personalized sales collaterals that we can send over to Alex Johnson from Green Tech Solutions. Now, depending on the workflow that you create, this might take a couple of minutes. And so in the meantime, well, it looks like it's generating right now. So we'll just let this continue generating here. So you can see here that it is now generating personalized sales collaterals for Green Tech Solutions. Elevate your impact with Flow Task Manager. It's tying all of the pain points that it came up with in the background and then creating a solution that Flowtask can solve for. And so after generating these sales collaterals, we might want to copy this information over and send it over as an email, or we might want to edit it. There are several different states that this can end in. And so if we continue on to the next screen, you can see that this pulls us into a document editor. where we're able to use AI to revise this document. And then at the end, if we want to, we can download this document as a PDF to forward to our prospective clients. There are also several other kinds of end states that we'll look into. For example, we have this chat end state for our sales call role play. And then we have the ability to query our database and look at documents. So now that you generally understand what these AI applications look like, let's take a look behind the scenes. And we're actually going to be building a portion of this live on this call. So inside of Sales Copilot, you'll see that when we open up an AI application, this is the editor for MindStudio. There are several different things that you'll see on screen. On the left-hand side, there is this Explorer, which showcases all of the resources that we use to build our AI applications. And so you can see that we have some sales training docs, we have various workflows that we've built out, and you also have access to several kinds of inputs. These are just simple forms that folks can fill out as they're using your AI applications. You also have the ability to expand the capabilities of your AIs via custom JavaScript functions. These are created by JavaScript developers, but do not require any coding knowledge to actually use. And we'll dive a bit deeper into that later on in our intro course here. So to the right of the Explorer, we have our navigator, and this is where we're going to be doing the bulk of our work in building our AIs. So you can see here that we have our main system prompt, and this is generated using an internal AI prompt generator engine that we'll dive into in just a second. And then you'll see that we have our automated workflows. This is our collateral generator workflow. And inside of these workflows, there are various kinds of blocks. And so you can add a block by tapping on the plus button, and there are various things that you can add to your workflow in order to create some sort of automated processes for your AI applications. So we'll dive into all of that in just a second. I'm just giving you kind of this high-level overview of what you can expect when you first open up the MindStudio editor. The last thing you'll notice is that you have the ability to choose the underlying model, the base intelligence of your AI applications. And we have various models from OpenAI, from Anthropic, Google, Meta, Mistral, and we are adding more models as they become available. We have the most popular models currently available inside of MindStudio. We will also soon have the ability to load your own models for enterprise customers. So let's go ahead, and now that you have kind of an overview of the editor, what and all the pieces and components in making an AI application, I'm going to go step by step and show you how we actually go and build something like this collateral generator workflow. So I'm going to go ahead and go to MindStudio. And after signing up for an account on MindStudio, you'll see this page that we call My AIs. And this is going to show all of the projects that you've created. If you haven't created any, this will likely be empty. On the left-hand side, you'll have access to all kinds of resources, including a list of all of the models that are currently available inside of MindStudio. We have all sorts of templates that you can explore for your specific use cases. Here, let me zoom in. I see a note that it's a little hard to see. We also have on the left-hand side a list of all of these various functions and integrations, because MindStudio can connect to all sorts of different services, and we'll be showcasing what something like that looks like a bit later in this intro session. And then you'll have access to all of our learning resources, our documentation. We have all kinds of YouTube tutorials available and our Learn page, which will be a good hub for getting started inside of MindStudio. So jumping back into the My AIs page, to create a new AI, you'll simply create on the New AI button, tap on the New AI button here at the top right. And this will bring you into your configuration wizard. You're basically setting up the new AI project. Now, we obviously have the ability to start blank and start from scratch. And then you also have the ability to explore all of the various templates from the template screen. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be utilizing this generate prompt utility here. And what this is going to do is it's going to allow us to describe the AI that we'd like to build in a couple of sentences. So let's go ahead and tap on the next button. And using natural language, we can simply type in the kind of AI that we're looking to build. Now, just as a reminder, what we're building is a sales collateral generator that we just saw previously. So I'm gonna type something that describes the sales collateral generator. We'll say something like create sales collaterals that are personalized to the customer. Assistant uses information about humans product to showcase the benefits of the product to the customer. We'll also say human will provide information about the customer. So notice a couple of things as I'm writing this. One is that we typically refer to the system, the AI, as assistant, and we refer to the user of our application, in this case, the salesperson who's going to be using the AI, as a human. We also have this third person, which is the customer that we're going to be sending these collaterals to, and we want things to be personalized to the customer itself. So let's go ahead and click on generate. And keep in mind, this is one type of generation engine. This is an open source project, so folks are welcome to create their own engines and contribute to this project to make better generation engines on MindStudio. So now you can see here that the AI utility that we have here has now written our initial prompt. And this prompt is separated into a few key elements. One thing you'll notice is that it is written in Markdown, and this allows us to quickly organize our prompt so that it's easy to scan through. So you can see that the generator itself has included a task and a role for the AI itself, some parameters, some traits about the AI, and then some details about the final output of the AI here. So let's dive into our automations tab here. And this is where we're going to be doing the majority of the work inside as we start to build out our AI. When we think about, let me back up for a second. This automation canvas is scrollable. You can scroll in any direction, right? You can, an automation workflow is set up into a few key pieces. So there is the start block here on the left. There is the end block, which we call the terminator. And then there's everything in between that you add. And so you can add all kinds of blocks to this workflow as we discussed. You can add blocks by tapping on the plus button. And so in this case, we can think through the AI that we're looking to build and think through all of the elements. We know that we want to collect some information about the customer, we know that we want some AI processing to happen, and we know that we want a way for us to edit the document at the end. So let's go ahead and set up all of these various elements. To collect information, we're going to need some sort of input. So we're going to add this user input block here. And then for any sort of AI processing, we want to use the send message block because it allows us to send a message to the AI on behalf of the user. In an ideal world, when you build these AI applications, you may not necessarily want the end user to know that there's any sort of AI happening in the background. It should just feel like an app that functions normally without needing to actually chat with an AI like we've seen in some other products and experiences. And so we want to, as much as possible, automate the process by which we communicate with the AI so that the user can simply enter information and get a useful output. So thinking about user inputs, we're going to want to collect information about the client itself, and then we're also going to want to enter some information about our own product. Looking back at the Sales Copilot, earlier, you'll notice that we had some onboarding screens where we trained the AI about our product. So let's go ahead and add both of those in. And rather than creating multiple form fields like we saw that in the demonstration earlier, I'm going to create a simplified version of this where we can simply upload a document that includes all of the relevant information. Now, when we collect user inputs, we can add new kinds of inputs, new kinds of these form fields by clicking on the block and then tapping on the plus button. The other thing you'll notice is that the menu on the right-hand side is contextual. So when you click on a different block, you will get settings to edit the block itself and configure the block. In the user input block, we can add new inputs by tapping on the plus button here and then adding various inputs. Now we haven't created any inputs, and so we need to create a new input here. Now you'll notice when we created a new input that the resource has been instantly added to our inputs folder here on the left-hand side. And there are various types of inputs that you can choose from. You'll notice that there's a preview on the right-hand side. And so as I'm making these changes, you'll see that we have inputs like a multiple choice input, or perhaps the ability to scrape the contents of a URL. So entering a URL and getting information from that URL. We have various kinds of ratings and dates, all kinds of different inputs. In this case, we're going to be uploading a file, and this file is going to include all of the information about our product. Now, when you create inputs, these inputs are stored as variables, and these variables can be used across our workflows here. And you'll see what that looks like in just a second. But we want to make sure that we name each variable so that it's easy to understand and easy to recall inside of our various workflows. So let's take a look here. Our variable is going to include product info. So let's simply name it product info. And then for our label text, we can say something like upload a doc containing all info about the product you are selling. And then we can choose various settings here. We can allow various specific file types. I'm going to keep this as allow all extractable, and then the type of processing. So in this case, we want it to only extract the text from that document. So now you'll see that inside of our user input block, if we jump back into the workflow here via the tabs at the top, you'll see that product info is now available as an input and has been added to this step in our workflow. The other way that we can create inputs is by navigating over to the left in our user inputs folder and tapping on the plus button. So the other kind of information that we need to collect in this AI workflow is the client information. And so I'm going to do the same thing. In this case, we're going to upload a file, and I'm going to have the variable called customer info. And we can say something similar. Upload a doc containing all info about the new client. Now, one thing that you'll notice if we jump back into our flow here is that this input has not been added in. And that's because we created it inside of our inputs folder, but we have not specifically added it in a block. So in order to add inputs that you create, you just tap on the plus button here at the bottom of the collect user input area, and then we can select the input we'd like to add and then tap on the add button. And now you can see that we have both our product info and our customer info as a user input. We'll be able to collect information about our product and collect information about the potential client. So let's move on to the next step in our workflow, because what we want to do is ingest this information and process it using AI. Now, if I'm going to include a couple of steps here. The first is I'm going to have the AI in the background come up with some pain points, and we're going to use that information in order to then generate a more robust sales collateral that actually targets the specific pain points that it came up with. Now remember, this send message block allows us to interact with the AI on behalf of the user so that the salesperson using this application does not need to type in any sort of prompt and chat with the AI to get its output. The purpose is to automate this process. So we can, using natural language, simply type our message in here that we'd like to send over to the AI itself. So we can say, what are some pain points that the following customer might have regarding project management? Now, why we chose to say project management, because the fictional company that we're building this AI for is Flowtask. It's a project management tool. So based on your use case, you may type something else inside of this send message block. This is just to demonstrate how to use the send message block in order to send a message to the AI and get a response from the AI as a background process. So the other thing we might want to add in here, we can use Markdown to create this separation, is we want to include the customer info, because at this point, the AI has no knowledge of the customer info. It's simply been collected, but is not being recalled by the AI in any way. So let's go ahead and add customer info. And then we can use this special syntax using these double curly braces, where we can recall the variable that we created. This variable we created, customer info, ties back to the input that we created. And so this variable represents all of the extracted text about the customer. So now we have the AI generating some pain points. And what we want to do is then have it generate some sales collateral. So we can add another block into our workflow here. And in addition to adding blocks via the plus button, you can also simply right click on the canvas, anywhere on the canvas, and select the block that you'd like to add. Now you'll notice that this block is not connected in any way. but we can hover over the previous block and select one of these nodes here on the edges of the block and simply link it up to the block we want to send it over to. Now we can do that for our Terminator block as well, and now it is in the workflow, incorporated into our workflow. Now in this block, we want it to generate the sales collaterals. And so we're going to type a message to the AI to actually output the sales collaterals. So we can give it some info about our product. And just like before, we're going to recall the variable that we set up. And then we can give it some instructions for a specific task. So we can say generate a sales page with a comprehensive view of how our product can benefit the following customer. And then we can have information about the customer. And in this case, we're going to include the customer info. Now, one thing you may be asking yourself is we generated some pain points in this block, the previous block here, but we also want to incorporate those pain points inside of this synthetic message. Just like user inputs, the response from an AI can also be saved as a variable. And to do that, we'll go down into message settings and we will change the response behavior. Now, these message settings allow you to send a message on behalf of the user to the AI. It also allows you to send a message to the human on behalf of the AI. So you can, in a sense, pretend to be the AI. And so that would be the system here. We want to save it as a variable. And so rather than displaying this message to the user, inside of this response behavior dropdown, we're going to assign this response as a variable. And we'll call this variable pain points. Now what we can do is we can incorporate those pain points in information in the section about our customer here. So not only are we providing the AI with context about the customer itself and details about what their product offerings are, we are also including the pain points that the AI generated based off of the customer information. And so just like that, we have created our very first workflow. After creating your workflow, you'll be able to choose your model settings. And like we mentioned, there are all kinds of various models, and you can choose the right model for the right task. In this case, various models are very good at different things. And so there are a lot of factors to consider when choosing a model. One is the speed of the response. The second is the context window, how much information we can send through the AI model and get in return. And then third is like the tone of the AI's responses, the amount of logical reasoning that an AI might have. All of these things you might take into consideration when choosing a model. For most cases, we typically recommend GPT 3.5. We consider it the workhorse model. It generally will get you a decent response. It's very fast. And so for most cases, we typically recommend using GPT 3.5 as a starting point. For those that are interested in processing large amounts of text, we recommend using a premium model like Claude 2.1 because the context window is much larger. And then for logical reasoning, if you're using you need to process a lot of information and have it reason about its information that you provide it, we recommend a GPT-4 Turbo. And then for specific use cases like generating code, you may choose something like Code Llama. The beauty of MindStudio is that we're model agnostic, and you can select the model that you'd like to use at every step in your AI workflow, in addition to choosing the underlying model. So let's take a look. I'm going to choose GPT 3.5. We can also set the temperature of our model, and the temperature refers to the amount of predictability in the responses of the AI. So typically what we recommend to folks is just start right in the middle of this slider. The higher the temperature of the model, the less predictable its responses are going to be. So if you have this turned all the way up, you'll notice you get a note that says this response might be unstable. And then the lower you go, the more predictable the response is going to be. So at 0, given the same message sent to the AI, it will generate the exact same response generally every single time. So what we recommend is starting right in the middle. And if you find that the responses coming from the AI are too random, like they don't make sense, turn the temperature down. If the responses require a bit more, for lack of a better word, creativity, you may want to turn the temperature up because it will just increase the amount of randomness in the model. The second major setting is the response size. And this is very self-explanatory. This is the max amount of tokens that the AI will respond with. You'll also notice that there is an equivalent, an estimate equivalent to the amount of words in the response. So you can see, 2008 tokens equates to about 1,500 words generated. And this is just the max size. This doesn't refer to every single response that the AI generates. Now, I mentioned that you can select whatever model you'd like to use for each specific task in your workflow. So let's dive in and explore that a bit. Inside of automations, you'll notice whenever we use an AI, in this case, in these send message blocks, we have the ability to change the model settings at any point. And so when you see this model settings configuration, you can then select all of the various kinds of models that are available inside of the underlying settings. Now, in this case, I'm going to generate the sales page using GPT-4 Turbo, and we have those same major settings for our model here. So I'm going to select the temperature at 1, which is right in the center of our slider, and then we'll have our max response size be 4,000 tokens. And so depending on the use case, you may want to have one model doing one specific task and another model doing another specific task. It really depends on your particular use case. So the last step in generating our workflow here is we may want to change the end state, the terminator of this workflow. The current behavior is to have our AI enter into a chat session. However, in this case, it's creating a document. And so really what we would want is the ability to edit that document. So we can simply change the behavior to revised document. And what this allows us to do is to utilize the document editor that we saw a bit earlier. Now let's go back here, the document editor, and it allows us to make changes to the output of the AI's response, in this case, the document that it generated. So that's it. We have completed our very first AI workflow. And the next step is we want to prepare our AI to publish before publishing. This involves a couple of different steps. The first is to check and see if there are any errors in our AI. So for example, if I had a misspelling here, you'll notice that there is an error message that pops up, notification here. This will take us to the errors tab, and you'll notice it says the variable is referenced but doesn't exist. And this error tab will identify all kinds of errors within your AI workflow revolving around, any blocks or any variables that you might be using. And so in this case, we want to make sure that the variable matches the variable name used inside of the input, which is customer info. So after resolving that, we can see there are no more errors here, and we can go ahead and preview our AI and test it out for ourselves. To preview our AI workflow, we can simply tap on the preview button at the very top right of the screen and select preview draft. And this is going to give the full experience of what our AI looks and feels like to our end users. Now you'll notice here that we have a landing page generated for our AI. We can edit that at any point, and I'll show you how to do that in just a second. And when we open our AI for the first time, we have that same workspace. We have our threads here on the left-hand side, but you'll notice an additional control hidden away here on the right. And when we open that control, you'll see that we have a debugger. So as we begin to use the AI, we'll see the information being processed through the debugger here on the right-hand side. So let's go ahead. I have a doc with all of the information about our product that I prepared for this specific intro course. You can see let me zoom in here. We have our product name, some key features, our product's value propositions, information about our pricing model, things like that. So let's go ahead and upload this. I have saved it as a PDF that I'm going to go ahead and upload here. Oops, give me one moment. Well, we can also just save it here. Looked like I misplaced the file here, but I'm just going to go ahead and save this doc as a PDF. So it is now inside of our downloads folder. Let's go ahead and upload it. You can see the file has now been uploaded, and then it's also going to ask us to upload a doc containing information about our client. And this could be information from research that we've done, or typically from some sort of client intake form that you might have on your website. So assuming this information is from a client intake form, let's go ahead and download this as a PDF document as well. And then back inside of our AI, we will upload this customer information. So now what's happening? Let's walk through the workflow that we've created here. We have just collected our user input to collect product info, our own product info, and information about our client. We have then asked the AI to come up with some pain points that this potential client might have when it comes to project management, which is what we're trying to sell them on. And then we're having it generate the sales page describing how our product aligns very well with this new prospect and can actually solve any sort of pain points generated. And you can see that the AI has then generated our sales collateral, and it's specifically tailored for green tech solutions. Now, if we look at the right-hand side here, I'm going to zoom in, but pay attention to the right-hand side here. You can see all of the information that was input into the AI. So remember our variable customer info. This is all of the extracted text that was pulled from the document that we uploaded. The pain points, this is the response that the AI generated in that second send message block. And then our product info is all of the information that we have uploaded to train the AI on our product. So you can see at every step of the way whether or not each variable loaded correctly. The other place where we can see all of this information, as I zoom back out for just a second here, is using this debugger tab. And this debugger tab will allow you to take a look at a recent message sent and see how long each step in the process took and each of the variables that were collected and what those variables represent. So at each step, you get granular information about what happened during that specific action in your workflow. In this case, we started the thread, we collected some user inputs, we had a message sent through to the AI, and then we had a secondary message to generate the sales collaterals. Now, obviously, the sales collaterals itself can be modified at the end of our workflow. We can utilize AI to do this. We can edit the document however we see fit, and then we can also fine-tune our workflow to generate the exact response that we're looking for. So keep in mind, this is just a very basic example, but you can incorporate all kinds of information for what you require from the AI. You can be very specific about the task that you want the AI to perform. And so looking back quickly at our debugger, we can see that this AI took about 31 seconds to generate its response here for the final step here. It took 6.2 seconds to generate the pain points, took 1 millisecond, it was pretty instantaneous to process these user inputs, and 16 milliseconds to start the thread. So as you begin to optimize your AI for response times, you may want to tweak various elements of your workflow, like the model settings or the prompt, in order to get faster response times and things like that. So now that we've gone through, we've looked at the errors, we have gone through our draft preview, and then we have looked at our debugger to make sure everything is running smoothly. We can then begin to prepare our AI for publishing. Now, as we mentioned, these AIs can be distributed in many different ways. And so we can use our general settings here at the root folder in order to change various details about our AI. So we can rename our AI. Maybe we want to name it Sales Collaterals Generator. We can give it a short description. Creates personalized sales collaterals for any prospective client. As we move into each section, we'll have the ability to add our onboarding workflow. So one thing that you may have noticed that is a little different in the collateral generator that we created was that this asks us for our product information every single time we start a thread. And this might be better utilized as an onboarding flow because we want that information to remain constant. So let's go ahead and add our product info so that we can train our AI one time on our product info, and when we want to edit it, we can always edit it later, but we're not stuck uploading information about our product every single time. Similarly, we might want to remove it from our initial input here so that we're only inputting information about our customer. So now when we preview this draft and we see a new version is available, we can click on this and it will reload the page. And now we're in an onboarding flow where it asks us to upload information about our product in the onboarding rather than in the thread itself. So now when we upload information about our customer. It's going to generate sales collaterals. And then when we open up a new thread, it will only ask us for information about the potential customer because it's already been trained using the onboarding on our product. So back inside of our settings folder here, we've created an onboarding workflow. We also have the ability to upload various icons and media, and you'll be able to see a preview of social sharing card. So if you were to share this inside of a social media platform like Facebook or Reddit or LinkedIn, this is what the card would look like. And so you can upload a social sharing image and an app icon, all various kinds of things, preview video, things like that. You also have the ability to fully customize the content of your landing page, or if you just want to open up the AI right away and not have a landing page, you can disable the landing page entirely. And then you have the ability to customize the branding and the styles of your AI application. So you'll notice that this AI application has some blue tones to it in its text and its background and things like that. This is where you would configure all of that information inside of styles and branding. Under the Access tab, we have the ability to determine how and who can see our AI applications. So if the AI application is public, it will be made publicly available inside of MindStudio. We can turn that off if we want that to be private. We can allow folks to remix our AI applications. And this is a way of cloning a project in order to improve upon it or change it in some way. And then we also have the ability to password protect our AIs and only allow folks that have a password to access our AIs. You also have the ability to embed AIs on your website. I'm going to be demonstrating this a little bit later in our intro course. And you'll have the ability to enable API access, which allows you to invoke a workflow programmatically and run your AI in as a background service in another application that you're building. And we're also going to demonstrate that in just a second. The billing and subscription is going to be changing, and so I'm not going to go over this just this second. So now that we're all done and we have configured our AI application, we can close these tabs out and we can go ahead and publish our AI with one click by tapping on the publish button. Now what we have is an AI application that we can use right away. This AI application can then be shared via the link here. This looks like there was an error. Let's go ahead and publish that again. There we go. This AI application can be shared via a link, and it can also be embedded in any sort of website, and it can be distributed in the real world via QR code. And this AI application, now you can see, creates our sales collaterals. We can now begin to distribute this internally in our organization, have folks test it out, give us feedback. At any point inside of our AI, as folks are using it, we have the ability to edit the AI by tapping on these three buttons and then tapping on the edit button. And then we can make changes. And as we make changes, we can simply publish those changes by tapping on the publish button, and it gets deployed in one click. So there are some things that we did not cover. You may have noticed on the left-hand side in this session, we did not cover data sources. We did not cover custom functions. We're going to dive into that in just a second, as well as embedding AIs and how to utilize the API access in order to incorporate these AI workflows seamlessly in other sort of business processes you may have. But what I want to do just for a couple of minutes is open up the floor for questions. I know that Liz and Emily, Una, and Georgia have all been answering questions in the chat. Um, were there any questions that went unanswered before we dive into the next portion of this course?
I think we've been able to answer and get to most of them. If not, please make sure you're putting them in the Q&A so that we see them. They do get a little bit lost in the chat, but there are a couple of questions that I think would be good just to bring to the group. So I think one of the questions we get a lot is, do you need separate OpenAI accounts or accounts with these models? So just kind of repeating how the access to these models works for everyone.
Yeah, that's a great question. You on MindStudio, you have access to all of the available models. We're going to be releasing a new pricing structure in the next couple of weeks. And it's going to go as follows. There's going to be a license for per seat. You, as a solo creator, you can start using MindStudio for free, and then you will be metered for usage for any model that you use. But you have access to the models themselves. You don't need any sort of account with OpenAI or Anthropic or Mistral or anything like that in order to use the models available inside of MindStudio. All of those, the usage of those models will be metered, and you'll be billed for the usage depending on how much, how many tokens, and how large your responses are, and things like that. If you are working on a team and require multiple seats and a shared workspace, you'll be upgraded to a Teams tier where you'll be able to add licenses for various seats on your team.
Exactly. And with that same enterprise client in mind, we have a couple people who want to use this for enterprise and are curious about data security, and is, that company information safe on MindStudio's platform, and are we in progress to become GDPR compliant? Which the answer to
Yes.
GDPR is yes.
Yes. We are, yes. So when it comes to entering, that's a really good question, and it's a question that a lot of folks working in enterprise have concern over. What you need to understand is any sort of information is uploaded to our secure servers. Nobody other than the person using the AI that is uploading the information has access to any sort of data uploaded to it. So even the creator of the AI application will not have access to information uploaded to the AI. Secondly, any information that is being processed through the AI is not being used for AI training for these models. We are on enterprise plans across all the models listed here. And one of the stipulations on being in an enterprise plan is that information is not used for AI training. Now, the creator of an AI application does have the ability, we'll see it here at the bottom under this advanced section, does have the ability to log responses. And so if you're looking to collect information based on a particular input, you as the creator of the AI application can do that. However, the user is also notified on the front end that this information is being collected and is being used by the creator of the AI application in some way. As far as uploading custom data sources, all the information and files uploaded as a custom data source is stored securely on our servers, and the only person that has access to the information is the person who uploaded the file in the first place.
Great. And then another question we get sometimes, and it's come up again today, is if I publish an application, if I create an application for customers or for my coworkers, will they be able to use that application without signing into UAI, or do they also have to create a MindStudio account?
Yeah, great question. So if there are sort of two routes you can take at this point when you publish an AI. If you choose to share the link, the user is now using the AI application on the MindStudio website and therefore will need to create an account in order to use the application on MindStudio. However, what I'm going to demonstrate in just a second is another route in which you can embed the AI application on your own website. And in that case, the user does not need to sign in order to use the AI application. And you may also tie in your own authentication on your website if that's a route that you'd like to pursue. So I guess the answer for this is yes and no, depending on the route that you take.
And last question for right now, can the applications read data dynamically, whether it's from Google Docs or an Excel sheet, anything of that nature?
Yeah, so you are able to do this. The difference is that you'll want to incorporate a service that pulls in the information each time in the workflow. So as the information gets updated, it'll pull in a fresh batch of information so that when you make an update to that, it doesn't really matter because it's always pulling the most recent information from your various sources. So you can do this in a couple of different ways. One way that I'm going to demonstrate in just a second is by using a service like Zapier in order to incorporate various services and bring in information from other services into your AI workflows. And then the other way is you have the ability to if you are a developer or have access to a developer, you can code a custom function that calls an API that you've created to pull in that information on each workflow that you run.
Awesome. Thank
You
you,
wouldn't,
Luis.
yeah, no problem. The last thing I'll add is that you wouldn't necessarily add that as a data source in this case, if that's what you're trying to do.
That's a good point.
Thank you, Liz. Appreciate you monitoring the chat, and Emily, Giorgio, Una, and answering questions for folks as we make our way through the course here. Okay, so diving back into the capabilities that we didn't cover for our AI projects, we have the ability to upload custom data sources. We have the ability to incorporate all kinds of functions and integrate into all kinds of different services. And then we also have the ability to embed our AI applications. So let's cover these one by one. We're not necessarily going to be building workflows on this call, but we do have access to tutorials which will teach you how to do that. I'm just going to give you a high-level overview about how each of these features work, and then after this call, we'll give you some next steps to continue pursuing your education to build AI applications utilizing these specific features. But today, hopefully this made sense, and you should, within an hour be able to build your very first AI application that, in this case, generates content, but can do all kinds of different things depending on your specific use case. So let's talk about data sources really quick. You have the ability to upload your own custom data sources. And when you upload a data source, you can upload multiple files that all gets recalled as one singular data source. What happens when you upload a file as a data source is that text gets extracted from that file, and then it gets vectorized. A vector database is created for that particular data source. So you can see here, I have 5 different files. This is the original demo sales copilot that we saw earlier. I have 5 different files, and each of these files are various sizes. You can upload all kinds of different files, including PDFs, text documents, HTML files, Excel files. There are many kinds of documents that you can upload as a data source. That information gets vectorized and gets a vector database is created with the file that you upload. So in this case, I uploaded a guide about prospecting and objection handling. And so after you upload the file, you can see a preview of that file. You can see the extracted text from that file. And this is a good way to understand whether or not the file uploaded correctly, because if there are any cases in which the text looks off, or there's weird spacing and strange symbols, it may be an indication that you have uploaded a malformed file and a file that the AI is not going to be able to process. And then you have the ability to view the vector database itself. So in this case, this is a remix. It'll show, it's not showing raw chunks because there's a known issue here. But let's go ahead and upload a separate data source here in our sales collateral generator. You can see we can upload all kinds of files. And when I upload a file here, I can upload that same document that we uploaded earlier, or that we saw earlier. You'll notice a status for that document, so it might take some time in order to upload, but then you can see that it is extracting the text, generating the vectors for the vector database, and then finalizing it all, putting it all together. And after you upload it, you'll be able to see all of the raw chunks that are created, because all of the extracted text is chunked out. And the reason we do this is because you may not be able to bring in all of that information as context for the AI that you provide to the AI. In many cases, your files are going to be much larger than the context window allows for. The most recent development for this is, if you've been paying attention to Gemini 1.5, that now allows for up to 1 million tokens, I believe. It was able to process an entire, an entire movie, hour and a half film, and pull information from it. So that is the only case in which you may be able to actually upload all information about your document. But in most cases, you're going to want to utilize a data source in order to use a technique that we call RAG. This technique, retrieval augmented generation, here, let me open up the sales questions flow here. You'll notice that retrieval augmented generation allows us to take a message from the user, send that as a query to the data source. And so at that point, we get a result from that query. So it tries to find the most relevant information. And then we use that information, that chunked piece of text, as context for our AI to process. It's a much more efficient way of processing information. So you may find that by using RAG with large files, your response time might be a bit faster versus uploading an entire document as context. But it really depends on your situation. In most cases, it may be better, if your document is relatively small, to just include that information as context, like we did in our sales collateral generator, where we loaded a document and then had the AI process the entire document. But again, at certain sizes, your files may be too big and it might have too much text to extract, and you'll run into errors when processing that information. So you'll notice in this types of documents created, and we're using a query data source block in order to query the data source that we uploaded. So we have an input that simply asks what we'd like to know from our knowledge base. And then we ask the AI to expand the question, the query from our end user. This expansion is what we actually use in the refined query. And this is similar to how um, a lot of search engines work, is they'll typically, people when they search for something, they don't use very many words. And so when you query a database, it makes it very difficult to get the right information, because it's trying to weigh all of the various vectors in relation to what your query is. And so by expanding on that initial query, we can provide it more text in order to properly query that data source. And then at the end of our workflow, we basically tell the AI, based on the result from querying the database, answer that original question. And of course, we go into the data source explorer at the end, which is an end state we also did not necessarily cover here. But in a nutshell, that's how data sources work. You upload your own custom data sources. You can then query the vector database that is created when you create a data source at any point in your AI workflows. And you may also incorporate this message processing. So if we continue to chat with the AI, it will also query the database and return the queried result. The other thing that we can add inside of our workflows is various types of custom functions. There are many types of blocks that we did not cover here. If you notice, we basically only use send message, which allows us to interact on behalf of the AI. The user input, we just talked about querying our data sources using the query data block. The last kind of sort of function block that you might have in here is the ability to run a custom JavaScript function. And this allows any developer to expand the capabilities of AIs. We can select a function, and you'll notice that inside of the available functions, there are all sorts of integrations into other services. So for example, if you wanted to fetch someone's availability via Calendly, you could do that. You can connect to image generation services like DALL-E. You can perform basic Google searches. You can get images from an image repository like Pexels or Unsplash, or you can connect to things like MailChimp and send an email collected to an email list, things like that. You can also, you can also perform regular like JavaScript functions, like transforming text in certain ways and modifying text. And so once we import a block, you'll notice that we now have a function added to our menu on the left-hand side. Functions are very simply just vanilla JavaScript code. And we have a bunch of methods that you can incorporate into your code that allow you to bring in various types of variables, or allow you to scrape URLs, or allow you to get the configuration data, because that is available in the interface inside of your workflow. So all of this is configured by the original developer, and then is then configured in the right-hand side by a non-technical person. So the developer created these two forms on the right-hand side using that configuration object here. And then you also have the ability to test out the data. So you can input, whatever you'd like for each of these configuration steps. So to quickly recap, here, let's close out some of these tabs so it's a little less confusing. The function itself, each of these configurations that the developer created, you'll notice tie into the configuration here on the right-hand side. So we saw we had Zapier webhook URL, we had an input. These are the things that a non-technical person would fill out on the right-hand side in order to use these various kinds of blocks. And this is also an open source project, so anybody can contribute blocks to our GitHub and specifically add functionality in order to expand the capabilities of any AI created in MindStudio. So let's quickly look at the other kinds of blocks that we did not cover. If we right click here, we know that our terminator block is this green end block here, but there are blocks like this menu block, this logic block, and this jump block that were not necessarily covered here. I have a couple of examples. The menu block is a router, and it allows you to create the menu that we saw in our original demo here. So what this does is it allows us to route and split apart the workflow into three different places. So you can see here that we have a menu block, and this menu block, depending on the choice selected, will go to these various workflows. The other block that we didn't cover is this jump block. And so you can see that this jump block will run a different workflow depending. It will jump to a different workflow. So if we follow the steps in this particular AI workflow, we have our start block, we have a menu that asks us what we'd like to do, and depending on that choice, it will jump to the workflow that specifically performs that task. So in this case, we have, generate collaterals, we have call practice, we have sales questions, and each of these jump into the collateral generator, the call practice workflow, and the sales questions workflow. The last block that we didn't cover, but we just released a tutorial on, is the logic block. And this logic block allows us to automate decision making, let AI make decisions for us. We can add various conditions inside of this logic block. So for example, we could, before it generated, just as an example here, we're not going to build it, but we could have it qualify this new client before we end up creating sales collaterals for it. We want to make sure that the client is worth talking to before we spend time making sales collaterals. So what we could do is we could say, based on, the variable customer info, the customer is a good match for, our product. Or we could say not a match for our product, or we could say we could use confidence scoring. There are all types of different ways that we could automate decision making here. And so similar to the menu block, this is also a router. This based off of the decision that the AI makes will route us in a different workflow. And so you can configure this in a number of different ways. We just released a tutorial specifically on how to do this. So I recommend you check out our YouTube channel in order to learn how to properly leverage a logic block inside of your AI workflows. So we're constantly adding new types of blocks, new types of function blocks, all kinds of functionality into this automations canvas. This is where you're going to be doing the majority of the work in order to build your AI applications. And so that's why we've spent a good amount of time in here. The thing that we did not necessarily cover just yet is embedding our AIs on a website. And this can be done very simply. I'm going to go into Webflow here. Looks like I was signed out, so give me a moment to sign back in. And I'm going to go ahead and open up my demo website here. When you create AI applications, you have the ability to embed AIs. Let's go ahead and jump into our sales collateral generator. Yeah, you can also embed into Notion if you'd like to. The way that we embed our AIs in various different places is we need to enable embedding. When we tap on enable, we are given an embed code that we can then paste into any place that allows you to use embed codes. So for example, if I was on my website and building out my website and I wanted to incorporate my AI inside of my website here, I could simply go in, I'm going to delete this block here. I could go in and inside of my website, I would look for uh, a way to add an embed code. And in most cases, it's going to be an embed block or some sort of embed option, at which point you'll get access to the embed code editor. And so inside of our sales collateral generator, we can simply copy this embed code and we'll paste it into our embed code editor. So once we save and close this page, we'll also need to make sure that we publish this page. So let me go ahead and I'll publish to the domain and then we will upload or we will open up the page. So you can see here now that we have the page, we now have our AI that is running inside of this page here. And you have the ability to all of these AIs are responsive, and so it'll be on you to make the actual iframe that is responsible for showcasing the AI on your website also responsive. You could do that very simply by either updating the style tags within the embed code, or depending on where you're actually embedding this, it may just have some sliders and maybe kind of like more of a WYSIWYG way to do it. The other thing that we'll need to do is you may run into issues when embedding AI applications because you need to authorize the domain. And so you can do that by just copying over the URL, and then inside of authorized domains, you'll paste in the URL and you'll save that in. And that's going to authorize the domain that you're embedding the AI on to actually display the AI. You may get an error if you have not authorized the domain. Additionally, if you have a website that has its own authentication, we have some advanced configurations here where you'll be able to incorporate your own user IDs so that sessions are persistent based off of the person that signs into your website. We also have a tutorial for that coming out later this week. But this essentially allows you to let people sign into your own website and then only then access AIs that you've embedded into your website. And it will also ensure that if they clear their cache or they open on incognito or something, that all of their threads are still saved and persistent because they're tied to that specific user ID. So the last thing that I want to quickly demonstrate, and it doesn't have as much to do with our the AI we just built, although there is a variation of it. I'm going to go ahead and close out all of these tabs just to kind of simplify our workspace here. I want to show you how you can leverage the API access, which is going to be coming out in a couple of weeks, in order to seamlessly integrate AI into your existing business processes. So just as an example, to show you what's possible, most websites will have, if you're an enterprise site will have some sort of client intake form here. Oops, let me open these back up. And what we want to do is use the sales collateral generator that we've previously created, and we want it to not only we want to leverage this inside of other tools so that we can connect to various services like our CRM, our client intake form, maybe our Google, our Gmail account, and have the AI work seamlessly within that workflow of generating the content, putting in it all these various places, because it's going to save each individual salesperson a ton of time. So let me quickly show you what this looks like. I have a demo client intake form. This is just a very simple Google form. These can look, as fancy or as simple as you make them on your own company's website. And at this point, a potential client might fill in their information. So let me zoom in here so you can see. So I'm going to add that same information we saw earlier. Let's say we're talking to Green Tech Solutions, and our point of contact is our friend Alex Johnson, and they are the director of operations. And let's say 150 people work at Green Tech Solutions. This client intake form can go on and on and on and on and on. I, for the purposes of this demo, included an option to allow this to be a very short client intake form. And so after the client is done filling out, they will have filled out all of the essential information so that you can have enough information to qualify this lead. So let's assume that they've filled out this entire client intake form. Well, now what we can do is we can incorporate a service like Zapier to help us with this business process, and then incorporate AI into that process. So here I have a tab open in Zapier showcasing a couple of AI workflows. The first is we have a workflow that that is triggered when a new form is filled out, our client intake form. This then creates a new card in our CRM. In this case, I have a very simple CRM created in Trello, and using this workflow, we can see that the new card has been created under new leads here. What I'm going to do is, after this is filled out, it's going to generate that sales collateral for us. It's going to comment that sales collateral in the card that it just generated. And then it's also going to create a draft in my email here. You can see I don't have any drafts. And so by using Zapier, it's already created the card here. That's not interesting. But then what's happening in the background is there's another trigger that when a new card is created, we run a MindStudio workflow. We run our AI app headless as a backend service. And what we do is we pass it all of the information that was submitted via our client intake form here. So you can see here that if we open this up, we have a Zap that is currently playing. It's currently running right now. It is running the workflow. We're having it delay to give it time to process a response. It then finds the card in Trello. It finds the previous response from the AI and then creates a comment in Trello, formats that text, and then creates a draft in our Gmail, so that by the end of this process, we have a card in our CRM filled out with all of the suggested information to send out to this client. And not only that, but the AI in combination with a service like Zapier will also generate that email in our drafts inbox. So again, let's just wait a couple of minutes for this to run. You can see inside of the sales collateral generator workflow here that we're also using some very specific syntax where we are running a variable through that is being pulled in via Zapier. So in this Zapier workflow, we can see here that we have a variable called client info that is the entire description of this Trello card. And that is being pulled in as client info using the special syntax launch variables here. So let's see, let's give it a little refresh. So now we're in this delay phase. So it has run the workflow. It's now delaying so that we can give it time to actually process the thread. And then it's going to find that card inside of Trello and generate a sales draft for us. And the nice part about this is that we can begin to automate processes and make our businesses much more efficient. So let's quickly recap all of the work that has been saved by creating a process like this. After a client has submitted the information, the salesperson no longer needs to look up the table and see if there are um, new clients filling out that client intake form. There's no longer a need for that salesperson to then come up with pain points. There's no longer a need for that salesperson to then write an entire document based off of those pain points. They no longer need to type out the email. These are just small steps in a big process, but over a long period of time, doing this repeatedly over and over and over, it's going to save that salesperson a lot of time, ultimately leading to more customer facing time, more time spent working on things that matter. So quickly checking back in here, let's run this one more time. Looks like it's still playing through. We can see we have the same workflow here, right? But in this case, we're passing this special syntax, and we pass it through again here using this $ launch variables. And there are other, and so as it goes through, it's creating, like we mentioned earlier, it's creating this comment inside of Trello. It's then taking that text and formatting it in order to prepare it for an email draft. And then it's actually going to create the draft in our email inbox. Just give it a couple more minutes for this entire process to run. Keep in mind that these processes, like us as people creating these applications, we're not necessarily monitoring these processes live. And so all of this is happening automatically during your regular workday. So you essentially set this up your very first time, and then you only need to come back to it if you need to update something within that process. While this is running in the background, um, we might have another minute or so if folks have any questions. I'm going to be looking into the chat here.
We do have a couple questions. So one
Yes.
is, with embed, could we embed into a mobile app that's on the Google and Apple app stores, or is it, can you only put into websites?
Yeah, 100%. You can embed the app anywhere you'd like. So if you want to create a wrapper and put the embed code inside of a mobile app that you submit to the app stores, you can certainly do that. There's nothing stopping you from doing that.
Great. Then it looks like we got a question from Fernando, which Giorgio answered in chat, but he did ask if we were able to produce workflow steps with Microsoft Forms and or Outlook. So it looks like using different inputs.
Yeah, so what's really powerful about this combination of an automation tool like Zapier in combination with MindStudio is that Zapier and other services like it, Make.com, N8N, they have access to thousands and thousands of different services that you can connect to. And so you're able to take information, pull information from any service that you use, and then bring that information into your MindStudio workflows. So just looking at Zapier, let's see if we have, I think I can just type in Zapier apps. See all integrations. You can, in order to answer this question, what you would do is look in Zapier, find the apps that are available. So maybe MS Outlook. There we go. Microsoft Outlook has its own app inside of Zapier. And then you would incorporate this into your Zapier workflow or whatever automation service you end up using. So the short answer is yes. You can now connect MindStudio to thousands of different applications as soon as the API access is released in a couple of weeks. So let's quickly take a look. I think we should be, oh, it's still loading here. Oh, the app did not respond in time. Interesting. Okay. Well, this is a Zapier thing. Looks like it was waiting to be scheduled. Let's go ahead and replay this event and see if it processes properly. It worked 10 minutes before I hopped on this call. I had no reason to believe it wouldn't be working. It might be something on Zapier where it just timed out. So this might be a good place to pause for a second and just mention that this functionality is coming again in a couple of weeks. We do have a workshop that is run by Giorgio, who goes into detail on how you can create your own Zapier workflows and incorporate AI into your current business processes. But I did want to give you just a little taste of what is possible just in this intro session so that you're not stuck with the idea that, oh, I'm only tied to building things inside of MindStudio in order to get things done, where the reality is that you are using MindStudio as a part of your entire business process. And it fits easily and seamlessly within your business process to be the AI portion of your business process. So rather than building out any sort of custom solution, leveraging, a lot of time, thousands of developers, anyone on your team can easily develop a MindStudio application and integrate it into your current business process. So for folks that are interested in joining a workshop with Giorgio, do we have a sign-up link we might be able to include in our chat here? That would be awesome. It sounds like there are some folks that are interested.
Yes, we will drop the link to sign up in the chat, and we'll make sure to put it in the email we'll send out with the recording of this workshop as well. So if you do want to dive deeper into additional ways to call platforms like Trello and push those outputs and do really some wild workflows, we do recommend trying to take a stab at building 1 or 2 AIs before you join that workshop. And I'm watching a couple of YouTube tutorials just so you can really take advantage of the time with Giorgio.
Yes, exactly. It is an advanced course. You should have full knowledge of how to build AI apps in MindStudio. Otherwise, the other part of it, which is how to incorporate into a larger workflow like a Zapier workflow, might not make as much sense. So it's very important that you do check out the learning resources available and at least try making some of your own AIs before hopping into this workshop. So this is a good time to open up the floor for some questions for the next, 10 to 15 minutes before we begin to conclude our session. Thanks to everyone who's been answering questions already. Seems like you're on top of it. Was there anything that stood out in the Q&A or in chat that maybe, folks who are watching this recording later might want to learn about?
Yeah, so I think, this is a common question we get. Do we have use cases besides the sales collateral? Yes. They are on our website, so we'll drop the link to our use cases and also our templates. So We found it's best to get people up to speed by walking through a specific use case so you understand that you want to have an idea of what you're trying to build before you start building and where you want the outputs to go. But we have basically limitless use cases, and Luis's team has built out a ton of templates so you can easily start to work with other examples as well in sales, marketing, customer experience. We have HR templates. So we have a ton that you can work with.
Yes. Sorry, I got there was something going on with Zapier. Um, but I'm going to share my screen because it did fully process at this point. And so I did want to showcase the final outcome of all of this, which is we created a new card in Trello here. It ran twice, so there's going to be 2 comments in here and 2 email drafts. But you can see that it automatically generated this draft of sales collaterals, and then it also automatically created a draft of an email to send out to this potential client, um, which is super exciting. Saved that salesperson a ton of time generating the sales collateral. All we need to do at this point is create our signature at the end, include a subject line, which we could also automate, and add recipients, which if we wanted to, we could also automate. Okay. Sorry, back to questions. Is very strange as like I hopped off of sharing my screen and then it all processed at the same time.
That was probably what was holding me back. Too much going on.
Yeah.
We do have a good question about what types of functions are included in MindStudio. I mean, there's a lot, but maybe you can list your favorites, Luis.
Yeah, sure. One of the so I want to preface this by saying like the list of functions available directly inside of MindStudio is constantly growing. We have a small, very, very small list of functions that are currently available inside of MindStudio. Some of my favorites is we tap into things like DALL-E and image generation tools in order to generate images. I really like the function that allows you to scrape URLs and get information from URLs. There's also, like you mentioned, like things like that plug into communication services. So you can take a response from an AI, send it through Mailgun to send a mass email to folks, or send it through Slack or Discord to message users in your various communities or workspaces. Or Telegram if you want to send, or Twilio, right? If you want to send via SMS or WhatsApp or things like that. And then in addition to that, the ability to code your own custom functions essentially uh, makes the possibilities limitless as to like what capabilities you can add into your MindStudio workflows. We've seen folks that are currently using their own custom functions in order to tap into their own like SQL databases and things like that. So like querying your own database when a thread pops up. Um, yeah, those are just a few use cases for custom functions.
Mhm. Question from David: is error messaging built in, or does that need to be created separately?
No, error messaging is built in to the MindStudio editor. We've tried to build out a comprehensive suite of potential errors that folks might encounter when building out MindStudio applications. And so as you're building, you will notice, critical errors and warnings inside of the errors tab. When you click on the link, it will take you directly to the place where we believe the error is occurring. Um, and then in addition to that, we have, we if you encounter an error outside of the editor, for example, if you are using the application, something happens, we have a screen that will let you know the exact error that occurred, and then you can reach out to our support team and we'll issue a fix, within the next 24 hours or so, likely sooner than that.
Speaking of errors, we actually just had a very exciting announcement live. So we're always adding new features and capabilities. We move very quickly at MindStudio. And one thing we just added is if you have a model within your workflow that is failing for some reason. So we've had some experiences, for example, where OpenAI goes down. And that's completely out of our hands. It's out of your hands. We now have automatic failover. So we will, for the time being, replace that model so that your workflow never stops working. So even if OpenAI has a problem, GPT goes down, we will auto replace that to make sure that your business isn't interrupted at all.
Yes, and this is super powerful because various model providers they have outages, just like, you know, they have outages, and sometimes, you don't want to be running an AI workflow where it's not working because of a specific model. So yeah, it's really exciting that you're able to just automatically use a different model and your workflow is not interrupted in any way. Yeah, that's very exciting. That happened during this call. Wow.
It did. I did. I saw it pop up and thought we needed to give product team led by Sean a shout out.
Yeah, big shout out to Sean. That is a super cool feature.
Last question, which I think is funny and not related to the product. Is Luis Messi's doppelganger? Yes.
Am I Messi's doppelganger? You should see my cousin because uh, my cousin legitimately looks like Lionel Messi. Yeah, it is bizarre. We were at I don't know, we should cut this out of the course if we're gonna post this video, but
We
we
are.
were at a bar in Cancun and my cousin got mistaken for Messi. People bought us drinks and they were chanting Messi, Messi, Messi for, like 15 minutes. And it was fun. That's because he looks like Messi more than I do.
I don't think we can end with a better question than that. So if you want more tutorials from Luis, from Giorgio, who runs our advanced courses, please sign up. We'll drop those links. We will email them to you. Check out our YouTube channel where we go through all of the basics. Luis has built out a level 1 and a level 2 course that you can watch completely for free. So you can get up to speed with the product really quickly. Both of those tutorials are less than an hour long and broken into really, bite-sized, absorbable chunks so that you can familiarize yourself with each section of the platform again. And we will be sending out this recording in an email. And finally, you can join our Discord. The link was just dropped in chat. And Discord is where we drop tips. We help out with questions about your applications and workflows. We have the majority of our customer service team in there, and Luis and Giorgio also pop in and say hello quite frequently, as does a few members of our C-suite, including Dimitri, the CEO, and Sean. They'll pop in to check on feedback and just make sure everything's running smoothly. So please join us there. We have a great community and we'd love to see you.
Yes, and if you want to get involved in the MindStudio community, there are several opportunities to get involved outside of learning how to build AIs. If you make content and you want to help us spread the word, please feel free to play around with MindStudio. Let us know if you want to make videos about it, and talk, help us spread the word about MindStudio. If you are a writer, we could use help, teaching other folks in written form via blog or via documentation. If you are interested if you have a podcast, we'd love to hop on a podcast and talk about AI, and maybe get Dimitri talking about the future of AI and how MindStudio fits in. Um, and then if you're looking to be hired by other companies to build AI applications, we do also offer a certification course, an official certification course. It's third-party tested and third-party administered um, with a company that called The Upgrade that we've partnered with. Um, this will add you to, in addition to getting a certification on LinkedIn, will add you to a database that folks who are looking for AI developers will tap into to hire out talent to build out their AI applications. So there's a bunch of different ways to get involved in our community. The first step is just joining us on Discord and checking out all of the tutorials on YouTube and our Learn pages.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day, and we will see you in Discord.
Thank you so much, everyone.